But we'll retain Bobby Banson, we'll retain Guildfred Esiama of the CDD, and we're also joined by Sami Obeng of the Parliamentary Network Africa. Mr. Obeng, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Great. I like that boisterous response that you just gave. Would you like to start off with him?
Well, Mr. Obeng, let's talk about the reshuffling, because now it's been in the news over the last few days about a potential reshuffle, or people calling on the president to reshuffle his ministers. But the president also says, well, I believe in my team, and I won't budge to all of this planned by the opposition to destabilize my government. What do you make of this happening? Should the president be reshuffling, or should rather be sacking some ministers?
Well, of course, we all know that it's the president's prerogative to decide which members of the public he wants to work with as the one who has been elected by the people of Ghana to lead the country. However, it behoves on us, the people, to also periodically, do an assessment of the president's performance and his entire government's performance, vis-a-vis how it affects our lives, and the things that we do as a people. It is for this reason why I think that, especially around this time, when, you have communication from various ministers, you have individuals who, have been given
Mr. Obeng?
Hello, can you hear me?
Good. Your line went dead a bit, but it's okay now.
When you have individuals in government who are clearly underperforming, when you have the situation of Ghanaians complaining, bitterly about one industry or the other, when you simply know that there is a challenge within the system, nobody will be convinced when we are told that the team that we have, is an untouchable team, and that a request or suggestions for some reshuffles to be done are equivalent to wanting to destabilize government. I think that that's really, really a very unfair suggestion from the president. I really do not think that it's only members of the opposition who are asking for, some form of reshuffles or changes within the government of Nana Akufo-Addo. And so to say that anybody who makes such suggestion is one that is seeking to destabilize his government is unfair to the electorate and the very people who have actually, put him there to govern right.
But should it be about reshuffling, or it should be about sack? Some have suggested that some ministers do not deserve to be reshuffled. They need to be let go for fresh blood to be introduced to help in the affairs of running the country.
Well, certainly, of course. I mean, a reshuffle may include having some new people brought on board, and that would mean that some people would actually have no place in the government as it currently is. And so, yes, there certainly are some ministers that, in my opinion, and of course, as you hear the conversation that goes on around the country and the commentary on social media, on television, on radio, in various homes, in various public places and all of that, you certainly know that certain people must go. They have served their country well, they have served their country for some time, but there comes a time when, one must give way for additional ideas, especially when, the going has hit a roadblock.
Have we hit a roadblock now? Do you feel it is high time we had a reshuffle and maybe some were even sacked? Recently, we heard from the president who was saying, look, my ministers are performing. And he named a number of them. And he says they're all performing, so to speak. Is that what you see?
Well, nobody will convince me that as a country, we've not hit a roadblock. And of course, we all have a responsibility, collective responsibility to join in to, make things better. Because if the country gets better, it gets better for all of us. His Excellency, the President, in his very early days, I know that this is a man who believes in the people that he works with. You'll recall that, His Excellency, the President started off in a way where even in his speeches, when he described his ministers or when he had to refer to a minister, he describes them with very flamboyant adjectives, touting their credentials and what have you. There are many of them that I doubt if His Excellency the President would use those same flamboyant adjectives, on them now. And that, is even testament to the fact that, many people may have, hit their wits' end and certainly would have to go. I disagree with the president when he says that his ministers, are performing 100%. Of course, there are some people who are doing extremely well, in my opinion. There are some people also who are performing at average levels, but there are some people who, in my opinion, have absolutely no business still being around.
So Mr. Obeng, if I should, put it straight to you, which ministries do you think need tweaking?
Well, so let's look at it from this angle. Now, if you have a country where you have the people that you have put in helms of affairs give you firm assurances, give industry, the citizens, firm assurances of something that has got to go in a particular way, and at the end you have things going the other way, and you do not have these same people having the humility to come and say that, look, we guessed wrongly, we anticipated wrongly, things have not gone the way that we had expected things to go, and so please, we want to have you guys rally around with us. Let's join forces and let's get things back in shape together. But rather, you have the posturing that suggests that, look, we were not even wrong when we have suggested things in this manner in the past, and so zip up as the people of Ghana and be there. And this is the kind of posturing that you get in, for example, matters relating to the decision to take off the road tolls, which certainly falls within the ambit of the ministry responsible for roads. You have the same kind of posturing with the whole, e-levy situation, dovetailing into, having to commit ourselves to IMF and what have you. Now, and that goes to the table of the finance ministry. That goes to the table of the finance ministry. To my mind, we should be able to have ministers, individuals, government officials, eating humble pie, coming to the people and saying, look, this is what we thought was gonna go. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way we had expected it to go. And so please, bear with us. Or, we know that we don't have a country that has a culture of doing things in a particular manner where people would, decide to let go their positions because they feel that they had failed in one way or the other or had not delivered on what they had promised. And for me, that's the kind of culture that we need to be institutionalizing, and people of Ghana need to be calling for these kinds of things. And that's why I find it unfortunate when anybody suggests that to suggest this is to want to destabilize government.
Let me bring in Bobby Barnes in here. But Bobby, you've had people like Kwadwo Mpiani, former chief of staff during the Akufo administration, who says that there has to be a reshuffle, and says the president's push on it may cost the NPP in future elections. The president is the one who is like the coach, sitting at the head of the table, looking at how the performance of his ministers. Why mustn't we agree with him that, well, he needs to keep his team together?
The president doesn't pay for fuel at the fuel station. The president doesn't exchange cedis to dollars to import products. When Ghana goes for a loan from the IMF or borrows money from the international market, it is not the president that is paying the cost of it. With all due respect, when the president retires or he leaves his office, his term of office, he's paid quite a handsome amount for working as the president. The people who bear the brunt of all these failures are the ones who are saying that, listen, enough is enough. And I am happy you have quoted a member, a leading member for that matter, of the MPP, and he's not the only one that has also called for reshuffle. I believe reshuffle is a lighter word in the context of the discussion. Plainly, some of the people must go. For me, one is not a matter of even competence; it's a matter of integrity. And I'll say it as it is. In many, should I say, developed democracies, when you have a minister coming out to say, this is the position of government, we will not take this step, and a few days later, the step is taken, why is the person still in charge of that ministry? It still baffles. I don't understand. It's a matter of integrity. And yesterday, I was in this discussion with someone, and he said, and I don't know, Benjamin or your producers can confirm, that in one government, in the previous government, a minister promised that a badge would arrive at a certain time, and it did not, or it came 1 week later. The person resigned or he was sacked because he had to keep his word. Why is it different with members of this very government? And we are not talking about only one minister. We have more than one ministers who have given us their word, and it's gone against what has actually happened, and they don't care. It's sad. We cannot reduce our governance structure or our democracy or we cannot have our governance without any form of integrity. And for me, it goes beyond MPP NDC politics, because again we have a situation where we have almost a hanging parliament, like we call it. So we cannot say that as far as this government is concerned, there's a clear-cut majority. And so you see that there's a sizable number of electorates who are swing voters, and they vote on principles, not on purely party lines. So if you have a government where members of the government say one thing and the other thing happens, and they say that I cannot leave, I'm a father who cannot leave his kids. I mean, who says that? Is it that there is no other person who can manage that portfolio? It baffles my mind, but I mean, it's like you said, it's the coach. We have no option than to wait till the end of the contract we have given him. If we are not happy with the contract we have given him, we would decide not to renew the contract, or we would decide to renew the contract. And remember, when a coach of a team is sacked, it is not only the coach that is sacked. In most instances, all his backroom staff are sacked. And so we would have to wait and see between now and the next contract renewal, and I'm using this because you use the coach analogy, comes up, we will decide what we will do. But it seems that integrity is being lost on us as a country. It's not about party, because like you said, you have people from even within the MPP, and he said those people are looking for jobs. Really?
Anyway, let me bring in Guilfred here. Guilfred, the whole discussion about reshuffling is to ensure that, like we see, things will get better. The president says, give me time, I'll fix it. The finance minister has even stated that, look, we will fix the whole issue about the economy within the shortest possible time at the end of the program with the IMF. Do you, from what the president has said, from the pressure coming in, do you foresee the president bowing to pressure to reshuffle his ministers? Or do you foresee a president who will be sticking to his guns?
Well, I don't even want to tour that angle. I don't think the president will be bowing to pressure. I think it's incumbent on the president, a democratically elected president, to be responsive to the call of their people. So a lot of Ghanaians are saying things are not going right. And if you look at the Afrobarometer report, you can see it just didn't happen post-COVID. 2017 evaluation of the government's performance in service delivery in terms of provision of infrastructure, in terms of provision of educational needs, health needs, and other assessment, there was a decline in the positive ratings for the government. When you come to 2022, it worsened. Even the worst you can see in some of these public perception or opinion polls that we have done over the years. So clearly, people have issues about the way things are being managed. They have issues about even the direction of the country. So the president is not bowing to any pressure. The president only has a mandate, and he has that responsibility as a democratically elected leader to listen to his people. So he must listen, and it's not about bowing to pressure. No, I think the president must listen to what the people are saying.
What if he decides not to listen, like he's indicated? His team is performing, and he'll stick with them.
I'm afraid it undermines the long-term sustainability of our democracy, because people put their trust in political leaders to solve the challenges and the problems that they face on a daily basis. So when people give this trust to politicians like the president to manage their affairs, and they can't wait for 4 years before they take another step, and they are giving you feedback, Mr. President, the boat is sinking, do something about it. And you want to remain adamant and say, well, you give me the power, and so far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to listen to anyone, even though I'm not going to tell you that I'm not listening. Then the next time that people present themselves for these positions, people stand for public office. What do you expect people to think? What do you expect the public, how do you expect the public to react? Because they know these people, once we give them the mandate and even things are not going right way, they won't listen to us. They will do as they wish. So I think it's not just about bowing to pressure, and it's not about the president exercising his prerogative powers of appointment or reshuffling or sacking, but it's about what the people think and what the people needs to be done. Democracy, we shouldn't forget, is about the people.
Okay. Samuel Bing, there's been discussions about the fact that MPs must not be made ministers. But in that discussion should also be made looking at the public wage bill, that if you take people who are not in parliament, it means that you are adding more onto the wage bill. If you take people who are members of parliament already, like the constitution says, you kind of add a little to it. What do you make of this thing called by people who say we should not make MPs ministers necessarily?
Well, we have seen how that situation is biting at us as a nation. I mean, you have individuals who are elected to become legislators who are supposed to be in parliament representing their people, overseeing the executive branch and making laws. And yet you have these same people who have had to cut themselves so thin, sometimes most times affects their attendance to parliament. And you know, this whole thing is becoming very unsustainable. You have a situation where whoever is president of the country has his hands tied behind him to select from a certain pool of people because the constitution says so, even if he has the option of, spreading, it. Now, I really do not think that it comes to the issue of how much cost it brings us if we decide to choose ministers out of, parliament. Because you can have a government who will be choosing ministers out of parliament if the constitution allows it, and will still be able to make a lot of savings than a government who decides that he's choosing ministers in parliament so that they're able to play the dual role, yet he's choosing, multiple dozens of ministers and bloating the expense that gets, built up on the public purse. And so for me, it's not an either-or situation. It is the fact that we are seeing that the system is not working with this whole suggestion or constitutional provision of having ministers, majority of them coming from parliament. It is not working. It is not providing us the kind of dividend that we want. Members of parliament themselves know it. The presidency knows it. Successive presidents, successive governments knows it. And we must start having conversations around it that are not just left on radio and television programs like we're having today, but that are seeing some level of action so that we can be able to right the wrongs that, our Constitution 1992 provided for us.
So what you're calling for is an amendment to that provision in the Constitution to make way for the president to appoint ministers who are not MPs necessarily, right?
I think that and many other things certainly needs amendments in our Constitution. And unfortunately for us, these are not new conversations. Even in the constitutional amendment processes, these things came up.
All right. Gilfred, you are with the CDD, and I'm sure you've done works in how people think about MPs being made ministers. What do you make of this subject? Whether or not MPs should be made ministers?
Well, it's very troubling. When you follow the various speakers of parliament, they keep lamenting how the absence of MP ministers undermines the functions of the legislature. So that is worrying from that angle. But I even want to go beyond just MPs being made ministers to even MPs being appointed to public boards. MPs who are supposed to play oversight responsibility over these boards are appointed to be members of the boards. How do they effectively oversee the workings of these public agencies? So I think these are key and fundamental challenges that undermines the core functions, that the lawmaking function or the oversight responsibility of our legislature. And it's about time we work towards that. Even beyond these core functions, I think maybe it's also about the numbers. How many ministers should we even be having as a country? You just glance through the rest of the countries on the continent, and you'll be amazed whether we are a special country, whether we live in a certain paradise and we have everything that we want. That's why we keep appointing these ministers. Where on the continent do we find many ministers being appointed in a single administration? Go to Kenya, you'll be marveled. Kenya, 21 ministers. Nigeria, look at Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire. So in fact, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any logical or economic sense for us to continue to appointing many ministers, people who have no work to do or no business to do in these ministries, and we keep paying them. And at the same time, it undermines some of their functions that they have been properly elected to perform. So I think as a country, we need to take a serious stance on this matter, even on the number of ministerial appointments that the president has to make, and also involving the members of parliament within the legislature.
But on the numbers, when this government had a lot of ministers in its first term, the economy was moving in the right direction. When they reduced, we're in bad times. Isn't that an effect there that we need to consider, that with the numbers they achieved lots than with the fewer ones? Or
well, I will go on the side of the public, and again I can refer you to Afrobarometer report. It's not so. It's not so. If you look at Afrobarometer report, the perception about the performance of the government in terms of service delivery, in terms of management of the economy, in terms of fighting corruption and all, it dropped from 2017 to 2019 and further declined, when we went to the field to ask them in 2020. So it's not the whole picture that the numbers were benefiting the people.
Okay.
What if these numbers were benefiting few pockets? So people haven't seen a lot of improvements in their lives, and so when you keep appointing large number of people into the administration, I think rather it undermines the public purse. You are not keeping the public purse. It is excessive. The countries that are doing well around us are not appointing as much ministers as we are doing. So what does it tell us? Does it tell us that we are not efficient, or we don't have efficient people to do the work, and we have to appoint a lot of people before they can do, or even not even match up to what our colleagues are doing when they are appointing few numbers? Cote d'Ivoire, look at Cote d'Ivoire, look at Kenya. So I think it is unjustifiable and we shouldn't continue keeping this line of arguments.
Okay. So what's your expectation from now to when would you expect to see a reshuffle? And what will be your reaction if you see none?
Well, my reaction if I see none, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, the president is not standing for any other election again. He is done. But as Bobby said, we need people of integrity in public office. It's not about what you benefit and what name, what legacy do you leave for yourself when we give you the power, when we give you our trust to rule us. I think that should matter to the president and whoever is concerned about the management of our country.
Thank you very much. Gilfred Esiama is a research fellow with the CDD. Thanks for joining us. Bobby Banson, let me give you a minute to give us a wrapping comment on this one. What is your expectation like?
I would rather say what is my hope.
Okay.
The expectation as it stands now, I have none. I mean, the man has said it. He believes in his team. He will not change. I don't think he will change his mind. But my hope is that those that are in charge will do their best to turn the economy around. That is my hope. And it's whether it's NDC that is in power or it's MPP that is in power, whoever is in charge of our economy or our country must be able to give us a governance that we will be proud of. The countries that are doing well are not better than us in terms of human personnel. It's a matter of leadership. And so, I mean, we are not the only countries that used to import from Ukraine to keep saying that it is the Ukraine-Russia war that is affecting us. And so we must, as a country or as leaders, put in place measures or start doing things right that will let the economy and our people have the benefit of proper leadership. That is my hope. As for expectations, I have none.
All right. So you don't expect to see any reshuffle, per what you said, right?
I mean, for the first time, I was hoping there would be.
Okay.
And so I was quite disappointed when that interview came out the way it did. I was really hoping, and I almost, had a bet that, listen, there would be a reshuffle this time because things are at a head. But it is what it is.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to you. Bobby Banson is a legal practitioner there. Samuel Bing, let me wrap with you. What will be your concluding remarks on this? Hello, Samuel Bing. Samuel Bing.
Now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I mean, we have a situation going to happen. Yet eventually they happen. And for me, on the back of that, I wouldn't be surprised if a reshuffle happens, although the president says that it's not going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised also if he sticks to his gun and continues to maintain his people just to be able to prove a point that, I trust in my people. Our country must not suffer. And that is the signal that must go to the president that, we cannot settle for anything that would make us continuously, go in a decline.
All right, Samuel Bing, thank you very much. He is the Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa. This is still the AM show. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with an interesting conversation with the BBC's Director of News. Stay with us here. Now, Irene Ansari is the HR Director for BBC News, who sits on the news board, and she's responsible for all the human resource development and management activities and decisions across the news department. We'll have a conversation with her here on the AM show. Stay with us. We'll be back.